welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. The movie I want to discuss today comes from 1932. This is Trouble in Paradise. And this stars Herbert Marshall, Miriam Hopkins, and Kay Francis, and directed by Ernst Lubitsch. This just came out. This is a 4K plus Blu-ray edition. It just came out this week from Criterion. Normally I buy Criterions at the flash sale or the Barnes & Noble sale, but every once in a while I make an exception, and this I have to make an exception for. I absolutely love this movie, and it was a surprise announcement because this was a DVD that Criterion had from about 2001, never upgraded, and it was thought that the elements were so bad that it wasn't really worthwhile to upgrade it. And here we get not just the Blu-ray now, but we get a 4K. So this is a film that opens in Venice. There's a very, very comical way that Lubitsch and Samson Raffleson, his screenwriter, they worked long and hard days to figure out how to get a very inventive opening. And I'm not going to spoil it for you. But we're soon introduced to a beautiful, luxurious hotel. Herbert Marshall is playing this baron. He's conferring with the waiter as to what they were going to eat for his assignation with the newfound love, who is played by Miriam Hopkins. He wants the champagne to glimmer, or the moon to glimmer in the champagne. He wants it to be a special day, a special meal. So when Lily, who's also played by Miriam Hopkins, she's also playing an aristocrat, they come have dinner. They both know that they're engaged in a masquerade. They're not really a baron. They're not really aristocrats. They're thieves and jewel thieves, and the baron has just made a big score. In the very comical give and take of the very witty dialogue, they exchange, instead of exchanging romantic pleasantries, they steal from each other. We never see any crimes here. All these thefts are like magic. There's no way they could have stolen these things, but it nevertheless is very funny. Miriam Hopkins is playing very much over the top here, and deliberately. That's the way that Lubitsch wanted her to play. Herbert Marshall is the epitome of the suave, debonair European air about him. But then we see them next in Paris, and they're down and out now. They need another big score, and they believe they found one with a widow, heiress to a great perfume empire, loaded with cash and jewelry, just what they're looking for. And Herbert Marshall, the Baron, wheedles his way into Madame Collet, being played by Kay Francis, into her good graces. And he is not only charming, he's light on his feet. He is a great he's great at improvisation. No matter what objections come up, he's always on the ball. He knows his way forward to get into Madame Colette's good graces, which they do. Both of them actually do. But complications arise because the Baron and Madame Colette also fall in love. We have two love stories here. And two different kinds of love stories. As I said, Miriam Hopkins is playing over the top. She's playing as if she's in a screwball comedy, and some critics, historians have mentioned that Trouble in Paradise is a forerunner of the screwball comedy. But I don't see it. Trouble in Paradise has a very, I wouldn't call it a languid pace, but it's a very measured kind of pace. Things happen sort of organically, whereas in movies like 20th Century and His Girl Friday, Bringing Up Baby, there's a franticness to it that you don't find here. But nevertheless, this is sort of a screwball comedy full of the kind of patter that people have, especially men and women have with each other as they build their romance. And then we have with the Kay Francis part, and this is a romantic comedy, and we feel sparks. We feel sparks between both couples. So, which way is this film going to go? Now, where Madame Collet lives is just a palatial. I don't know if it's a villa or whether it's in Paris, but it's just fantastically decorated in Art Deco style. The art director was Hans Dreyer, who was in charge of this Paramount film, where Ernst Lubitsch spent much of his American career, and he was the head of design at Paramount. But every once in a while, he would do a film, and he did the Art Deco design of Trouble in Paradise, and used many of his own objects from his own personal collection. Great staircase, and great, we get the sense that these people are totally divorced from the reality that was going on around them, which was the Great Depression. This was 1932, one of the darkest years of the Great Depression. And it's mentioned. It's not, we see characters that in the movie that are very poor, and also when the Baron is consoling Lily, he's saying, because they're not down and out, but they're on the road. This is the way the times are today. But he also says something really, really cool. He said, "Remember, prosperity is just around the corner." Now, this was the slogan, the message that President Herbert Hoover gave to the American people as the economic conditions worsened, and it became a joke. And certainly, I would imagine audiences in the theater in 1932 would have died laughing, hearing that slogan being used. This is basically a three-character comedy, but there are two significant supporting players here, and they're played by Edward Everett Horton and Charlie Ruggles. They are the suitors for Madame Collet's hand, and they're enormously rich as well. And but they're the Ralph Bellamy type. They're playing the Ralph Bellamy role that Ralph Bellamy was famous for playing in comedies later in the 1930s. They're boring. They may be wealthy, but they're boring. They're never gonna be able to compete with the kind of charm that the Baron has, and the kind of sway, the romantic sway that he has over Kay Francis, who never looked more beautiful as she does in this film. I mean, she looks gorgeous, and Travis Banton clothed her. I think she has 8 different costumes in there in this film, and she looks spectacular in all of them. So what about the Lubitsch touch? Whenever you talk about a Lubitsch movie, the Lubitsch touch comes up. What was it? It's defined in many different ways, but I think it's been described by different critics is that most directors will give the audience 2 + 2 = 4, right? And Lubitsch gives you 2 + 2 =, it's up to you to do the arithmetic. It's up to the audience. You have to, so much of Lubitsch's comedy, and especially in the area of sex, is very much implied. So and there's one shot I have to mention. Now, in the opening title sequence, the title goes "Trouble in," and then there's a pause, and right after "in," there's a bed. Trouble in bed, trouble, and then paradise comes into the title. Later on, there's a number of montages in this film, and one of them, when we think that there may be some sexual congress going on, which is very much implied, the camera, there's a shot of a bed, like a king-size bed, and of course, no, a man and a woman were not allowed to be in the bed together. So Lubitsch has the shadow of the two characters superimposed upon the bed. So this is a Lubitsch touch, but to me, I don't know. It's just there's a certain grace to his films. The characters sort of glide through this movie. The dialogue sort of just flows. And when I say the characters glide, well, Herbert Marshall only had one leg, and so he was severely restricted for walking very far because it would then become noticeable. So Lubitsch, who edited all his films, he had to show Marshall making a couple steps, and then he would cut, and then he would see the last couple steps to wherever the scene is ending up at. And he uses a double to go up this, to run up this beautiful staircase. So I probably letting in a secret that you don't need to know. But Marshall makes up for all of that with his delivery, his voice, and the rhythm of his speech, and especially the pauses. This is one of his best roles, and he had a lot of good roles in the 1930s. Because of the implication of sex outside of marriage and also crime not being punished, this, you would think, would run afoul of the production code. This was 32. The code wasn't so strict in those days. Plus, many of the people who worked, in the censor, in the production code, they liked Lubitsch. They liked all this Lubitsch touch. So he was left alone a lot. But by 1934, the code had become very strict. And so when Paramount reissued some of their prestigious and most popular movies in 1935, the production code banned it from being released to the public, which lasted until 1968, the fall of the production code era. And then it would be able to be shown publicly in movie theaters, on television, had been shown in festivals and in museum showings. And then when it came out, it got terrific reviews. It got good reviews back in the day. Lubitsch was a very famous and very popular director. His movies weren't commercial, blockbusters. But he was well known. He came from Germany. He came from Germany in 1923, I think, for Mary Pickford. They didn't get along too well on a film called, I think it was Rosita. Pickford later said that Lubitsch was a great director of doors and props. There's props come into play everywhere, especially clocks in Trouble in Paradise. So in 1968, comes out, everybody's been able to see it. It became, because of 30 years, more than 30 years, it became kind of a legendary film. Now, Samson Raphaelson, the screenwriter, was kind of perplexed at the great amount of praise that the film was getting. Raphaelson thought the characters were all unnatural, that Lubitsch they were all like marionettes and puppets. And then later Lubitsch films that he wrote, like Shop Around the Corner, or To Be or Not to Be, or Heaven Can Wait, they were real characters. And compared to the characters in Trouble in Paradise, who were, they are figures of fantasy, or figures of fancy and fantasy, and in a very sharp-edged comedy. And he may be right about, Raphaelson may be right, but the thing of it is, when this Lubitsch is the puppeteer, it's nevertheless going to be enchanting, and I think Trouble in Paradise is definitely an enchanting movie. So on this Blu-ray, Criterion is ported over the Scott Eyman commentary. Is very good. He wrote a book on Lubitsch, so everything you want to know about Trouble in Paradise you're going to get out of this very good commentary. There's a introduction by Peter Bogdanovich that runs about 10 minutes. There's one new supplement, a video essay by David Cairns. They're always interesting. And then we get in the foldout, we get a essay by Farron Smith Naomi, always good. And the booklet, or the foldout, continues on with this Art Deco style. I mentioned there were some montages in here, and it matches, this design matches one of the montages in the film. And in fact, in the foldout, it runs all, they use it all the way across. And I'm very fond of this kind of style. Okay, so thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.